Alrighty, so we have arrived finally at the, not really the start of the season, but this is where the off-season starts for the Challenge Series, starting with the North American Prospects Division. Yeah, it's not really, it's kind of glossed over many a time, but there is a sort of a hierarchy in Challenge Series. There are different little divisions and such. It stretches beyond the tier A, B, C, D, E, and S that you'll see in the videos. There's the Classics division, there's the Bangers division, there's the Twisted division, Twisted Invitationals. Some people call it the Twisted division, either out of misinformation or out of consistency. Sometimes both. And then there's the Prospects division. Drivers that are just short of making it to the big leagues, as it were. They're 1 or 2 championships away from being competitors in that. Some drivers have come up through different divisions. Madison Palmer made her way to the big time through the Classics division with the 69 Camaro SS. That she won the championship in 3 different times over Samuel Jansen's 1970 Plymouth Cuda. The other driver that made his way up through that division was Thrasher in his 65 Mustang. Or was it a 69? I don't remember. It was an old 60s Mustang. Anyway. There are other divisions. I mean, there's divisions for individuals' car types as well. Think of the progression in Gran Turismo. There's like the front-rear challenge, the front four-wheel drive challenge, mid-engine rear-wheel drive challenge. There's the MR division. There's the... Or no, it's all-wheel drive, front-wheel drive... Yeah, it's all-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, and mid-engine versions, or divisions. Notable driver has come out of each of those 3. Nobody's really come out of the FR division massively yet, because they've always transitioned to MR before they get really far in FR. The notable exception to this being, Gina herself was the first champion because she, kind of orchestrated everything. MR, Alice Carson, who's not really shown up in an episode yet, but she was the first champion there in her 99 NSX. The first winner of the 4-wheel drive division was Aya Nordine in her Gen 4 Evo. Another driver that hasn't appeared yet because there's no Mitsubishi in the Challenge Series. And the biggest driver to come out of the front division was Shoji Hakure in a 1988 CRX. I think it was 88. Anyway. So, but then there's the divisional prospects. The North American division, the European division, and the Pacific Asian division. Streamlined championships, which are the best of each division that have come up through other smaller divisions, which will be storied as we go along. And the rules here will be pretty simple. 8 races, 2 episodes of championship. Probably both will be recorded at the same time or same sitting. If I can stay awake long enough, I will record all 8 races in one go, in 2 separate episodes, obviously, and edit them the day after. Completely new drivers, minus 2, since each division will have 2 upper tier drivers sort of moderating the event. In this case, managing the NA Prospects division, myself and Thrasher. Actually, I'll be in all of them, I think. the Asian division has Nitori, and the European version has Gina. Yeah, we'll get into all the details of individual drivers later, but for now, let's just begin the first race at Black Cat County, all the extra talking out of the way. It's a bizarre looking morning at Black Cat County's medium length circuit. And Jorge Alfonso is on pole, Oscar Marquez alongside him, so that's certainly a win for Central America. Although they also take up last place down here with Bruno Lafayette. Although actually a lot of these drivers have roots in that part of the world, south of the United States. Alfonso, Marquez, Narvaez, Manuel, and Lafayette all live south of Texas. So yeah, let's begin the first race. Brad Hunter gets away well. He will overtake Marquez before we even get near the first turn. Does he get Alfonso too? The Corvette's got a lot of power. Does he have the nerve? No, he has the nerve, alright. Around the outside. Smooth move for Brad Hunter. He will put his Corvette in the lead. Nina Narvaez with not the greatest start. The other Corvette of Seth Kendall also moving up pretty fast. He's going to try and take second away here. I suppose that segues well as he completes the move into the first of the character backgrounds, or driver backgrounds. Seth Kendall, brother of Mark Kendall, who recently just entered the Challenge Series Twisted Division, or Twisted Invitationals, driving his signature Buick GNX. Seth Kendall prefers a more modern and sophisticated approach to driving, and wanted to seek the joys. I didn't write this stuff down like I read any other character profiles down. This is just kind of off top of my head type stuff. So there'll be a lot of uhs and ands in there. But he wanted to pursue more of a career in more sophisticated racing on circuits, not Twisted Invitational style demolition derby racing. And his personal sort of hero car being the well, I mean, he used to really like the Mercury Cougar Trans Am cars, but those are hardly relevant. Let's probably actually focus on the racing here, and we'll get to him later. Through the hairpin at a standstill. Thrasher is also getting into the mix here with his not Super GT Supra. And he's up to 4th from 6th. So yeah, Seth Kendall. Yeah, brother of Mark Kendall. He has many memories of playing Twisted Metal 2 and 3 with his older brother Mark. Or, sorry, younger brother. Yeah, Seth is way older. He's 39 to Mark's 32. Anyway, yeah, he always preferred... I already mentioned he preferred sophisticated racing. I'm not gonna be able to even finish one character before I get to the end of the race, am I? The back three have not moved at all. Trying to keep track of who's moved and who hasn't. Or like who's changed positions a lot and who hasn't. Really, everyone's gone up or down, but they've only gone up or down 1 or 2 spots, not more than that. Me and Alexis Mosler have traded places, more or less. Yeah, so Seth set about driving his old Mercury Cougar XR7 in the Class 6 division. He had to face against Palmer and Jansen. He never won a championship until Palmer graduated from the Class 6 division, though. And then he swept it. It was a 7-race championship, and he won all 7. 6 of which by over 12 seconds. So he knows his way around an old muscle car, but that's hardly applicable to a Corvette. Brad Hunter started his career as a drag racer. He would always show up to festivals and events in incredibly high horsepower drag spec Chevy Chevelle SS. He was never the best competitor at drag racing, so he decided he'd try his hand at circuit racing. That went a lot better. He also made his way up through the Class 6 division as the consistent second best to Seth Kendall in his race-tuned 1970 Chevelle. People took notice because the Chevelle is a little bit harder to drive due to its weight compared to the Cougar. Marvin Manuel ran the fastest lap. That does kind of mean something here, because that does mean you have raw pace. I have gone down the order. What the heck? Wow, I am... Alexis already getting on my nerves, or just a massive mistake from me? It's one or the other. Oscar Marquez is a limo driver by trade. He prefers the luxurious side of racing and the luxurious side of, well, just about everything. There's a big house, and an even bigger lifestyle. You'd think he was a celebrity or an entrepreneur or something. You'd be wrong. That's an inheritance. No, it wasn't one of those framed health insurance collections. No, it just... last remaining family type thing when his grandfather passed away. And also money earned from being a limo driver. You know, that does pay relatively well, considering your clientele on that job is usually pretty well moneyed. So yeah, he prefers the luxurious cars. The Alfa Romeo Giulia would not be his first pick. His preference lies within more of a German types of cars. Specifically, he prefers himself a Mercedes-AMG GTR. Failing that, his second choice would be an SL65. But considering there is no Mercedes in this tier, which this is basically tier C, he had to go with the closest thing to that, which would be an Alfa Giulia. So, as we head through the last turn, take a brief moment or brief stop of the running off of character backgrounds and upbringings. Also, Marquez is a pay driver. There's no way around it. He definitely did buy his way into this tier. He's found he's not bad at driving. Limo driving does have its uses. He's gotten used to logging big cars around turns. But talent is not the reason he was here. And some have criticized that aspect by mentioning that he just bought all these nice cars, and that's the only reason he's competitive is because he purchased vehicles. To which he says, if I really wanted to do that, I could just drive a Countach, like Bruno. Those two have met before in a previous division, as well, they were together in the Central America division, even though neither of them are actually directly from Central America. But yeah, that feeds into the NA division, even though Rafael is Argentinian and Marquez is Mexican. That's beside the point. They had to race against each other once, right before this tier, and they had a couple of incidents together, so Marquez and Rafael do not like each other very much. And now we move away from everyone's home turf in the southern United States. Black Cat County is a track that most of these drivers have reached at least once. Some, such as the case with Hunter and Kendall, have raced there 3-4 times apiece. But now we're on to Monza, and the only drivers here that have any experience with that are me and Thrasher. So this will be interesting. Alright, we have arrived at the starting grid for Monza, a track which is going to feature a little bit of improvisation from our drivers, as, well, the only ones that have experience here are myself and Thrasher, as previously iterated. However, I don't have the best equipment for this track. Driving a Lotus, I'm probably doomed to not score again. But that doesn't matter. It wasn't mentioned earlier, but the rules of this are pretty simple and straightforward. Basically, top 3 drivers that aren't me or Thrasher will basically advance to the Challenge Series. So by the end of the Divisional Prospect Series of Championships, we will have 9 new drivers involved. How often each one will show up, well, it depends on their vehicles of choice. Somebody likes Ferraris, I can guarantee you they're going to show up pretty often. But if you tend to lean more towards, say, Mercury Cougars, like Seth Kendall does, then you're probably going to be a pretty rare sight. Nina Narvaez with a terrible jump off the line means that Oscar Marquez can pull away into the lead with ease. Bruno Rafael already making himself known, rear-ending Seth as we hit the first corner, and experience maybe talking there as, well, he doesn't know this track. I suppose this segues into the next character on the list, J.V. or Joseph Wheeler, is, to some drivers, a driver that needs no real introduction. Sometimes goes by the name of Vert. He has joined both the Twisted Division and the North American Divisions at the same time. And yes, he jumped straight to this division. He didn't have to go through any of the other theater ones because, well, I kind of already knew him. He's very aggressive, as you can see, and he just took Marquez straight out. That was interesting. But yeah, so, continuing with Burt Wheeler, sometimes I use the nickname. But yeah, he was in Time Loop. So I knew him awfully well. Ryan Stevens knew him awfully well. Ryan Stevens thought he was actually dead. But no, he's just been practicing, so he says. It seems to be paying off, although he apparently wasn't practicing his braking technique much. Thrasher, meanwhile, has a run on second and third place cars. Now, there's really not much more at stake for myself or Thrasher other than just like pride or enjoyment. So Thrasher has no real reason to get super aggressive. This isn't really his thing. He's just here for, like, to make sure things go smoothly and to prevent more things like the Joseph and Oscar incident from a lap ago. To make sure this doesn't break out and do a bunch of that. It's very possible that a driver that ends up getting into a favorable position in the championship by way of just wrecking his opponents might just be counted out. And the driver in fourth in points, or you know, the one below him, because it's very possible that Thrasher wins this championship, and then it's like second, third, and fourth that advance, because he can't advance into the Challenge Series. He's already there, so yeah, he's not taking a spot away from anybody if he does win the championship or place in the top 3. He's just purely here for sport. Same thing with me, obviously. I can't. If I place top 3 in the championship, I don't kick third place out of the Challenge Series. That's just not how it works. And there goes Brad Hunter overtaking me. He's gonna try his best. I'm gonna fight him over it. You know, I gotta test their mettle. I apparently have just panicked and gotten out of the way because I thought he was gonna run me over, but he managed to not hit me. I don't know if that's because of the fact that I ran out of the way or because he knew what he was doing. And here comes the other Lotus to try and rub salt in the wound, but I will outbrake it. Bruno Lafayette is a driver that hasn't really given me a ton of information about himself. I know that he raced in the, Why did I call it the Central American Division before, when it was just like the... I mean, yeah, it is that, but that just, it's like... It's wrongly titled that, because it's basically for drivers that are of, South American or Latin American descent. It should be called the Latin America. Or Latin American. God, I can't talk. Latin American. There we go. That. Thing with that stuff. Latin American Championship. Same as the European Championship has the spin-offs of the British and the Italian Championships. Although those two championships are not exclusive to British drivers or to Italian drivers. Actually, there's not a single Italian driver that has won the Italian Championship yet. It is instead, it has been a Portuguese or Spanish driver every time except once, which it's happened 5 times. 2 wins for one Portuguese driver, 2 wins for a Spanish driver, and then there was 1 driver from, I forget where he was from. Seth looking for a move on Kendall, but finds nothing. Oh, it was a German driver who gets raced from the British Championship won that. And Seth Kendall has overtaken Nino Narvaez to reach 2nd place. That'll put him in a pretty comfortable points lead gain out of the race if he doesn't throw that away. But yeah, I know Lafayette made his way up in this same exact Lamborghini Countach in the Latin America division. and he had many run-ins with Marquez and his SL65. And he also had a slight run-in with a driver that's not here because, well, they didn't make it here, to be perfectly honest. And I say he didn't make it here. That's simply because his collision that he had with Bruno resulted in him getting a terrible injury that prevented him from attending. He would have shown up in another Countach, even though that driver actually prefers to drive a Ferrari 488. He obviously couldn't do that in the Latin America division, so at that time he had also had to settle for a Maserati Gran Turismo. It was one of the faster cars on hand, but he wasn't a great driver anyway. Speaking of, Brad Hunter looking for an overtake on the Lamborghini driver, and the horsepower difference is going to rear its head just there. I would say JV has got this win pretty secured on almost 7-second lead as we begin the last lap of the race. Nina Narvaez was an interesting character. Despite being from the region where you'd make your way up normally through the Latin America division, she did not do that, as Manuel and Joe Tackett are fighting for 5th place behind her. They're going to continue to drag race, JDM versus JDM, but the Supra is going to have better power. But yeah, Nina Narvaez is Puerto Rican, and no, she actually made her way up through the MR division, driving an F40. But, that was initially where she was anyway, the F40, but she kind of totaled that while racing for the win at Imola, in an exhibition race that she showed up to try and learn more variety of tracks. If she totaled that, going for the win against, out of all people, against Shoji Hakare, who was there in a Honda S2000. Why did it say S2000? NSX. So Narvaez was about to get run off the track by Manuel. Narvaez instead went to the front championship to exact her revenge. But she did it relatively cleanly, though. She never actually hit him or anything. She drove a Fiat Punto against the CRX and an Integra for the championship battle. A 6-race championship came to the last lap, and Shoji dove it on her at the last corner. JV Wheeler is going to win the race, and that is why you've seen Shoji Hakare a long time ago, but you haven't seen or heard word from Narvaez, despite the fact that she also won 2 races in that championship, same as the Integra driver, being Kendra Gauthier, who's also in the Challenge Series but hasn't shown up yet. Narvaez tried again with the Fiat Coupe Turbo Plus, or those 20-valve Fiat Coupes you'd see on the older Gran Turismo games from 2 onwards. The ones with the weird, like, 3-dot headlights. And still lost to that Integra despite having the better car. Although, no real fault of her own, she kind of got put into the gravel in the second-to-last race that she would have won whilst trying to lap a driver of no particular, not really any particularly important driver, with a little too much power stuffed into their EK Civic, which then ran them off the road, allowing the Integra to take the win and causing Nina's Fiat Coupe to get stuck in the gravel trap. She wasn't happy, obviously, you can imagine, but never really had anything out with that Civic driver as much as I think I would have, even. But no, she's just so laid back, and some people think she just doesn't care about anything anymore. She may have emotional issues or something. No, she's perfectly sane. She just doesn't care. She just knows that she's, like, indebted to the universe at this point, and she's just waiting for her comeuppance. We're here on the starting grid for Mugello. And, Marvin Manuel is on pole right alongside JV Wheeler. Seth Kendall also in a decent spot, so he's looking safe for the time being. Will JV Wheeler manage to overtake the Supra off of the jump? No, he will not. He will kind of let off and fall into the line. Thrasher's 3 wide with some Corvettes, but they all kind of back off and settle that dispute before they even get to T1. Alfonso already passed Nervaez off the start, but they end up in the grass alongside with 2 other cars. The Mania at the back has not stopped. Me and Thrasher are going to battle it out for 8th place. Thrasher's got a lot more power. I have slightly more handling. And these corners are weird, so the outside becomes the inside, and I will defend from Thrasher. For the moment, Thrasher is going to actually come back at me with that same horsepower. He kept that same energy. And I'm still going to defend my tailpipe off and hang on to the spot. It's gonna be fun here, clearly. Marvin Manuel is a very interesting personality. He's hard to talk to because he's always listening to his darn music. He is madly in love with pretty much any kind of anime. You pretty much call him weeb at this point. He's obsessed with pretty much everything Japan, and as such he drives Japanese cars. Namely, making his way up through the 4-wheel drive challenge by driving a ST-185 Celica. After having won the championship in the 4-wheel drive division though, he decided that was enough. He was going to go to the front-rear challenge with the Toyota AE86, predictably. That didn't go too well. He got firmly slapped because there were much faster cars there than that. He thought it'd be funny, and instead it was just a tragedy when he only got 1 point in the entire championship after 6 rounds. He did, however, lose that championship to Riley Blanchard, who's, you know, in a Corvette. So you can kind of imagine the performance difference there was just kind of very bad. And the only driver that he consistently finished ahead of was he kept finishing ahead of an S13 driver. And that was only because of the fact that driver was so unbelievably bad that he wrecked his car 3 times in 6 races. I don't know how he even fixed that thing every time, but here we are. Eventually Thrasher passed me. No, he didn't. Scoreboard lied. I think he got caught up by Raphael. And now I got back ahead of him, and I'm going to try and pass that Countach now. I will probably find no more or less success than Thrasher did, and I will instead be passed again. Never mind, I will not. Now let's see here. Yeah, so after Manuel got humbled in the FR challenge, he made one more crack at a division, and he went to the Latin America division, driving that same ST-185, and he was a nobody there. And people were really curious as to how he won the four-wheel drive challenge, but couldn't do anything in the Latin America tier, or division. I keep getting my terminology confused. They're all divisions, okay? Everything I say, every descriptive word I use, it's a division. It's not a challenge, it's not a tier. Stop saying those words, Riker. It's a division. He made a one-off appearance in the Classics division. Yeah, not everything in the Classics division is an American muscle car. As Manuel showed in his one-off victory driving a Nissan R31 Skyline, using the handling of his vehicle to his advantage when navigating Long Beach, a track that we no longer use anymore. I would if it were on a Soto Corsa, for fuck's sake. Right, this isn't that. Language trigger. Anyway. Yeah, we probably would use it for. Oh crap. Probably would use it if we were on a Soto Corsa. Yeah, Long Beach R31 Skyline handles considerably better than the Cougar and the Chevelle that he was dealing with, fighting for the podium positions the whole race. He would typically get ahead of them through the corners, when he could anyway, because passing's hard to do at Long Beach. But as soon as he did all of that work and did all of that, he would get passed by them again on the straightaway and have to do it all over again. But he won, because the run to the finish line is not very long after the last turn at Long Beach. And proceeded to use that same R31 to try the FR challenge again. Still didn't work. He still lost that championship by miles, but at least he was competing for it. He got 2 podiums in a vehicle that wasn't really seen as much better than the 8.6, so he just seems really inconsistent. But he seems pretty consistent right now. He's running away with this race. Not running away, but he's pretty far ahead, and he's probably going to win. He's here in a Supra now, obviously, to represent the Japanese vehicles. Specifically his Celica, which he obviously couldn't race here. He says he's never driven a car in his life that wasn't Japanese, outside of one time where he rented a Ford Fusion to drive around in America. And he just said that felt weird, so he never went back to anything other than Japan ever again. He's never driven a European car. And he has, he's been alive for a while. He's in his 40s. He's the oldest driver here. He's 41 years old now. He's seen it all, pretty much. He's seen every Japanese car there is to drive, just about. Except for, well, anything front-wheel drive. But if it's rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, he's set. And obviously that experience with Japanese vehicles is showing. And I think he's going to win this race. We will watch this battle for second, if we would even call it that. It's probably a good thing I spent this whole race talking. Eventually Raphael has fallen to myself and to Thrasher. Now the only 2 drivers that are left that I haven't described before are Jorge Alfonso and Joe Tackett. I don't have to wait till the last race of this episode. Marvin Manuel is going to go ahead and take the win at Mugello. A drive that honestly made it seem like he'd been here before when that's physically impossible. Marvin Manuel, with that win, has split the 3 Corvettes. He's third in points, 2 points ahead of Brad Hunter. And he's sort of on the bubble, but he's only 2 points off the championship lead. It is very close up to this point. Only 4 points separating the top 4 drivers. And then it's quite some distance. The next relevant driver is 7 points off that. And now we end off this episode with the 3rd consecutive race in the country of Italy. It is Imola, a track that, well, Manuel actually knows. So maybe he'll repeat his success. Here on the starting grid for Imola, and Manuel is in an okay spot to repeat that success. He starts ahead of all of his Stingray rivals. Very far ahead of all of them, with the exception of Brad Hunter, who starts 6th. I think he could probably pass these cars pretty easily if he plays his cars right, so we'll just have to see if he can do that or not. He's got the experience of a Challenge Series driver, he just doesn't have the speed. Or at least, it's not proven whether or not he does, so he's going to have to prove that to me here, and earn his keep if he's going to make the big show. Well, I would say that start wasn't really earning his keep, but luckily for him, 2 of the cars ahead of him got even worse starts than he did, so he will gain positions anyway. He will manage to, I think, he will wiggle his way up into 2nd place midway through the first chicane. Everyone has survived up to this point. We had up ahead we had Brad Hunter in the dirt, but he managed to keep the car running. As everyone scrambles to get into their assigned positions, as it were. Seth Kendall makes the hasty move ahead of Thrasher. We more or less just kind of let it happen. And while we're on his camera, Joe Tackett here in an RX-7, but normally he prefers an EK Civic. No, he was not the driver that wrecked. He was not the driver that wrecked his EK Civic and took Nino Narvaez with him. That was a different EK Civic. His is black. That one was red. My head was very itchy. Had to deal with that. Joe Tackett is a driver of consistency. However, he's not exactly a driver of consistently winning. Hang on, there's a battle for the lead, I think, about to happen here. Does Manuel out-drag the Lotus down the straightaway? Oh, am I kidding? Yeah, he does. Pretty easily at that. Anyway, so Joe Tackett, he tried making his way up through the drag division, or the drag racing division of the Challenge Series. That didn't get him super far. Well, that's where he met his close friend Brad Hunter, who he followed here on Brad Hunter's, quote, ladder to success. He makes it seem like it's some sort of business pitch, when in reality it's just a bunch of bull crap. At least that's what Tackett will tell him, as as Thrasher has just kind of offed himself, and Alfonso also kind of panicking in the chaos and almost ran him back off the track while he was trying to re-enter. He's close friends with Brad Hunter, despite being on very different wavelengths as far as driver skill and driving preferences. Tackett prefers the lightweight Japanese import cars to Brad Hunter's preference of raw American horsepower. Marquez has arrived. These two don't seem to like each other, so I'd be surprised if we don't see some sparks flying here in a second. Me and Kendall should probably choose our next actions carefully. Marquez is going to outdrag the Lamborghini. Surprisingly, no clapback from the Countach driver. Either he's trying to be on his best behavior because he knows what's at stake if he decides to act out, or he's just, like, there, and just didn't see an opportunity to do it. But yeah, so despite being close friends, the two don't really agree on much in terms of driving, preferences, archetypes, etc. They've fought each other throughout their racing careers. Hunter's definitely been more successful, but still kind of got Tackett to get here out of a merit of, or not on the merit, but like, of like a good frame of reference type thing. Almost like you'd like get a reference from your high school teacher when you apply for a job application, pretty much. Apply for an application. Is that really the correct term? Because that seems redundant. Anyway. I guess what I know, like I have a job. That's two things in this house that won't work. Seth Kendall trying to find a way around Raphael and almost putting himself off the track. Nina Narvaez is fending for her life against Brad Hunter's Corvettes. I have this sneaking suspicion that may not last forever. Brad Hunter is going to pull aside here. He thinks he sees a move coming. I think he's wrong. So, I also forgot Alexis Mosler as well. Jorge Alfonso. Egocentric. That's like the definition. Like you look up egocentric and the picture of this guy will pop up on Google Images. Like, not even kidding. He's so self-centered, he chose the Maserati Alfieri, a car that's relatively underpowered in this tier, only because its name reminded him of his own. Alfieri, Alfonso. He's not fun at parties, I imagine. That's what I'd like to imagine anyway. I don't know how true or untrue that is. I've never been in a party with him. I've never been to a party with him, and I don't really want to change that. He kind of bugs me, but he's shown talent, and he managed to take 2 consecutive victories in the MR division, and he was driving Ferrari 288 at the time. He could have easily taken a 288 GTO here. That's what Nina Narvaez is driving. But no, he didn't want to do that because, oh, funny name thing, haha, funny gimmick. I raced against him once before this championship, and it was in when he made a guest start at the an FR challenge race that I was racing. It wasn't great. No, he almost ran me off the road. And that's impressive because his car was a lot lighter than mine. He was only driving an S14. I was driving a flippin' Mustang, and he almost ran me off the road. How do you manage? He didn't, like, apologize or nothing. He just moved on with his day like nothing happened. But Gina swears there's some potential in this guy, and I'm just like, yeah, there's a potential for me to backhand him if he keeps this up, but I heard her out, and I gave him a second chance here. He made his way into the NA prospects by driving talent, so obviously there's a part of him that thinks he's earned the right to be as arrogant as he is, but so far this championship is definitely gonna... he's definitely having a seat here. He's being humbled far and away. And I couldn't be much happier, to be perfectly honest with you. Alexis Mosler, I think actually it's Mosler, the sole Canadian representative of this championship. Alexis has always been a fan of Lotus. Like, just die-hard. Could not be a bigger fan of the company. Was a huge fan of them in F1 when they returned for like a couple of years before they became Renault. Ironically, she does not like Renault very much, so as soon as that happened, she, well, wasn't much of a Lotus fan anymore. She became a Ferrari fan because of Kimi Räikkönen. But yeah, she has a lot of memorabilia from F1's, or from the old Lotus F1 team, from like the really old days. Also, Marvin Winwell is gonna win again. He's gonna win 2 in a row. He's making quite an impression up to this point, to say the least. Yeah, Mosler is a diehard Lotus fan. She jumped at the opportunity to finally drive a Lotus Exige in this championship, being that she raced her way up through the MR division. She, of course, chose a Lotus. She had a Lotus Sport 190 Elise. Or Lotus 190 Elise, like the original 90s model. Wasn't very great, but she managed to do more with it than I expected. She managed a podium following 2 NSXs colliding and collecting somebody else in the wake. I don't remember what car it was. Yeah, 2 NSXs crashed from the lead, collected the car in 3rd place. She inherits 2nd place after this crash, gets passed by Alice Carson, the only remaining NSX in that race, but survived for P3, and she cried up on the podium. She definitely wears her heart on her sleeve, to say the least. She's sort of the wild card driver here, but we were supposed to have at least 1 Canadian representative, and Thrasher chose this driver as sort of like a +1 type driver or type of thing. Of like, I think she has potential if we just gave her a better car. So she's having a chance to prove that with the Lotus Exige S, which isn't the best car in this tier, but it can compete at tracks that aren't straightaway based. She's not doing too bad. She's 8th in points. She's ahead of me, who's also in a Lotus, so that counts for something. Maybe she'll return next year, but right now I don't really think her odds are super high of making the big show. Right now, those 3 drivers are Manuel, Hunter, and Kendall. JV Wheeler, not too far away from that. He only needs 1 or 2 good races and he'll be pretty much safe for a while. And he has the best car in the tier, so... yeah, that is it for the first half of the NA prospects. Look for the second one to come up not long after the first, basically. That's sort of the plan anyway. It may not work that way, but it shouldn't be that much longer afterwards because I'm going to be recording both at once. So, yeah.